Welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Frama Pani, and my sign language interpreter is Shegun Ajayi. Let's begin with the headlines. Ahead of 30th session of UN Climate Change Conference in Brazil, President Tinubu approves adoption of National Carbon Market Framework to manage Nigeria's participation in carbon market operations. Legal fireworks over PDP 2025 convention produces judgment as court bars INEC from recognizing outcome of exercise. And on the foreign scene, in a shocking move, King Charles III strips younger brother of royalty over lingering sexual scandal. And now the news in detail. Ahead of the 30th session of the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Brazil, President Tinubu has approved the adoption of a national carbon market framework to establish and manage Nigeria's participation in carbon markets. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jubrila reports that this framework will enable Nigeria to unlock $3 billion annually in carbon finance within 10 years.
This is the second meeting of the National Council on Climate Change, and approvals followed a presentation by the National Council on Climate Change aimed at operationalizing the Climate Change Fund and the restoration of the agency to the budget line. President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the meeting, said the approvals were part of measures to properly position Nigeria to leverage opportunities in the global carbon market and be more active in climate change ecosystem. The meeting is also setting the agenda for Nigeria ahead of the forthcoming 30th United Nations Climate Change Conference, scheduled for Belém, Brazil, to harness all the opportunities for financing climate-resilient projects and related interventions, particularly from the global carbon market.
Through the renewed Hope agenda, this administration has placed strong emphasis on building a new economy for Nigeria, an economy that is green, just, and people-centered. Nigeria stands ready to take its rightful place as a global leader in climate action, ensuring that our voice and our realities are heard and respected in international negotiations.
Nigeria is very, very excited, and we are very excited. It happened just before COP, and we're ready and channeled to move on to the next phase, and Nigeria is officially ready for business.
The Council expressed commitment to providing the technical leadership and coordination needed to translate Nigeria's climate goals into measurable results, as the nation is now eligible to access new rounds of climate finance from multilateral funds. From the State House, Abdurrahman Jubrila, NTA News.
Following a deadly wave of chaos surrounding the Tanzanian elections, the United Nations issued a strong condemnation on Friday. They urged Tanzanian security forces to exercise restraint and avoid using force against protesters, while simultaneously calling for investigations into the election-related violence.
Says to refrain from using unnecessary or disproportionate force, including lethal weapons against protesters, and to make every effort to de-escalate tensions.
Adding to the gravity of the situation, the main opposition party reported that approximately 700 people had been killed during the 3 days of election protests. The UN Human Rights Office further confirmed receipts of credible reports indicating fatalities in key cities, including Dar es Salaam, Shinyanga, and Morogoro. These reports describe security forces using live ammunition and tear gas to kill the unrest. President Samia Suluhu Hassan's government, already facing accusation of repression, has been widely criticized. The largely uncontested elections were seen as an attempt to consolidate her power and silent dissent, as prominent opposition figures were either incarcerated or barred from participating. Now, the United States Department of State on Friday urged American citizens to avoid all travel to the Republic of Niger, citing a perilous mix of rampant crime, civil unrest, terrorism, health risk, and widespread kidnapping. The Level 4 Do Not Travel Advisory highlights Niger's volatile security landscape, where armed groups operate in a vast region and kidnapping targeting foreigners remains a grave concern. U.S. officials recommend that any Americans currently in Niger depart immediately using commercial options while they remain available. The advisory underscores ongoing challenges in the Sahel nation, which has grappled with jihadist insurgencies and political instability since 2023 military coup. In Guinea-Bissau's military declared that it had successfully thwarted an attempt to subvert the constitutional order, detaining several senior army officers accused of scheming to derail the nation's upcoming general election. The arrest took place on October 30, hours before the official start of campaigning for the legislative and presidential votes slated for November 23, 2025. Among those detained was Brigadier General Daba Nawalna, known as the Haba Nawalna, director of Kumer Military Training Center and a former president of the Military High Court. He was apprehended at his residence in Bissau, authorities said. And headlines across Britain are dominated by King Charles III's dramatic move to strip his brother, Prince Andrew, of his royal titles. Buckingham Palace confirmed this and his eviction from his longtime home, Royal Lodge. This decisive action is the latest development in the ongoing controversy surrounding Andrew's association with the U.S. alleged sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Comfort Fashion reports.
For years, Prince Andrew was sheltered by the unwavering support of Queen Elizabeth II. Her death in 2022, however, marked a turning point, leaving him vulnerable to the consequences of his actions. Rumors of inappropriate behavior had dogged the 65-year-old royal for years, but shielded by the Queen's favor, he weathered each scandal, emerging seemingly unscathed. Following a disastrous 2019 television interview where he attempted and failed to address his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, Andrew was stripped of his Royal Highness title and sidelined from royal duties. Yet he retained the privileges of royal life, including his title as Duke of York and his residence at the opulent 30-room Royal Lodge within the Windsor estate, for which he paid a nominal rent.
I think it's a long time coming. I think that it was clear from very early on that he wasn't a very nice man and that was not very trustworthy.
But now Buckingham Palace confirmed his expulsion of his royal title and his eviction from his long-time home, Royal Lodge. It was Queen Elizabeth II who originally granted Andrew and his then-wife, Sarah Ferguson, the titles of Duke and Duchess of York, a title rich in history once held by her own father, George VI. Comforts, Fashion, NTA News.
Now talking judiciary matters, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission from recognizing the outcome of the forthcoming 2025 National Convention of the People's Democratic Party. The presiding judge, Justice James Omotosho, gave the order while delivering judgment in a suit challenging the legality of the convention. The court predicated its decision on the failure of PDP to comply with relevant conditions and laws for the conduct of such conventions. The court equally held that evidence from the electoral umpire and some of the respondents showed that congresses were not held in some states of the Federation in breach of the law. It also held that the signing of the notices and correspondences of the PDP by its national chairman without the national secretary violated the law and consequently made such notices and correspondences a nullity. Justice James Omotosho held that the PDP failed to issue the mandatory 21 days notice of meetings and congresses to enable INEC carry out its mandatory duty of monitoring such meetings and congresses. James Omotosho held that the failure of the PDP to comply with the law has put the planned convention in jeopardy and subsequently advised the PDP to do the needful before going ahead with the convention. In the light of this, the court restrained the INEC from receiving publishing or recognizing the outcome of the convention slated for Ibadan until the law has been complied with. Now, ensuring an unhindered access to justice through the enthronement and promotion of the rule of law in Nigeria has again been advocated. Chukwunonso Nwabweze reports that this was at an enlightenment walk on the knowledge of law and preservation of fundamental rights held in Abuja.
From the Millennium Park to Maitama and Wuse 2 districts of the FCT, as well as the Federal Secretariat, these young rights advocates, mainly legal practitioners, are drawing public attention on the importance of people to not only know their rights, but also for them to be abreast of the legal process in enforcing such rights.
It is time for us to bring it to the grassroots so that people understand their rights, to also help them understand what is the right thing to say, what not to say at the point of arrest.
So first of all, there is a knowledge gap. I know that I have this right. Then finding people that can help me, speak up for my right is now the next step. So for every person that is listening, know your rights, adopt technology to increase the knowledge of it, and of course, enforcing these rights.
We've explained to a lot of persons now that you have rights. Whenever your right is breached, there's a barcode here. You scan the barcode and you can contact us. Call any of the numbers on the flyer and the lawyers will be there for you.
With a focus on know your rights, know the law, as well as reducing pre-detention trial through technology, the justice work put together by the Public and Private Development Center in collaboration with development partners also offers pro bono legal services. Chukwunonso Nwabweze, NTA News.
Away from the judiciary now, the Nigerian Armed Forces have held a colorful pulling out parade in honor of the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, marking the end of an illustrious military career spanning nearly 4 decades. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa captured the event at the Mogadishu cantonment in Abuja.
Left, right, left, right. The rhythm of the parade and the tone of the combined military band setting the tone for the solemn yet celebratory occasion. Serving and retired service chiefs, family members, friends and well-wishers gathered to witness the symbolic and sacred military tradition, marking the end of a distinguished career of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa. His journey began precisely 39 years and 4 months ago, rising through the ranks to the pinnacle of his career as a 4-star general and the nation's defense chief. During his 2 years in office, General Musa spearheaded decisive military operations that led to the surrender of more than 90,000 terrorists and their families, depleted the Lakura terrorist group and dismantled several criminal networks across the country. In his valedictory speech, General Musa described his exit as a moment of fulfillment, urging the nation's gallant troops to remain steadfast, reminding them that defeat is temporary, but victory is certain and binding.
As I hang my uniform today, I do so with a clear conscience, knowing that I gave my all. I live with cherished memories of camaraderie, of battles fought, and of triumphs celebrated as one family. The sound of the bugle might change for me, but the soldier's heart beats on forever.
Is the end of an era for the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, born in 1967 and joined the NTA in 1986 as a member of the 18th Regular Corps. From the Mogadishu cantonment here in Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Now, in a strategic move to enhance operational efficiency and align with the command philosophy of the new Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Aneke, the Nigerian Air Force has comprehensively redeployed senior officers. Defense correspondent Olajide Bello reports.
I wish to assure all officers and airmen that I shall continue from where my predecessors stopped in the quest to attain the required posture that will guarantee Nigeria the security and stability necessary for development and peaceful coexistence.
Following his assumption of office as the 23rd Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Aneke has set the ball rolling with the appointment of branch chiefs. Air Commodore Ehime Ejodame, the Director of Public Relations and Information, confirmed the postings approved by as the 23rd Chief of the Air Staff as designed to optimize command effectiveness and reinforce mission readiness across Headquarters Nigerian Air Force, field commands and units. The reshuffle places seasoned leaders in key positions to drive NAV's core objectives. It is intended to sustain the momentum of transformation and usher in an era of smarter, more adaptive air operations, fully reflecting the Chief of the Air Staff's vision for a purposeful and progressive force. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Right, we'll pause here, take a short break. More reports right after.
Nevertheless, we must come to terms with existential reputational threats to our national brand, in which external purveyors of untruths are mischaracterizing our nation as a destination for a so-called persecution of people based on their religious faith. This is a propaganda externally woven by those who want to break or weaken our unity. For the upteenth time, I'm emphatic that there's no iota of truth in the communication that is out there, that there is a deliberate, calculated effort where one particular religion is targeted for extermination. I therefore urge us to use the instruments of public relations crafted in truths and facts to vehemently reject this single despicable narrative about Nigeria. It is incumbent on all of us to unite in a voice that will ensure that Nigeria is indeed a country that is anchored on the freedom for everyone to practice his or her religion. In any case, that is what our Constitution stipulates.
Thanks for staying tuned. Now, as technology advances, nations, including Nigeria, are encouraged to largely adopt the use of hybrid structural materials in order to address threatening economic and environmental challenges. This was the focus of the 5th inaugural lecture of the Nile University of Nigeria, Abuja. Francis Udoja reports.
Considering the cost of using concrete materials in setting up buildings and other infrastructures that could as well be unfriendly to the environment, the use of hybrid structural materials such as compressed hard bricks as well as wood have been suggested by experts. In a lecture titled Beyond Concepts and Concrete, Pathways for Advancing Sustainable Buildings and Infrastructure in the 21st Century Nigeria, Professor Abdulhamid Danjuma Mabo and the Vice Chancellor of the Nile University of Nigeria, Professor Dili Dogo, encouraged government and the private sector to go beyond slogan but adopt structural techniques that address and improve economic and environmental challenges.
In Kuje, recently when we made a market survey, a 3-bedroom flat made from concrete block is going for around 40 to 50 million. But the same 3-bedroom flat made from compressed hard brick is around 25 million. It's cutting the cost by almost a half just because of the material. And National Building and Road Research Council have done extensive investigation in the compressed hard brick, and they find out that it's a material that can be adequately used for housing without any fear. So rather than insisting on concrete houses that are becoming too expensive, that is also environmentally not friendly, why not we should look for a hybrid material that encompasses the wisdom of our fathers.
What can we do to make our infrastructure innovative? What can we do to make the infrastructure reflect a peaceful form of kindness to the climate. Because if we have to sustain our future, if we have to live to make sure that the next generation enjoy the best of this earth, then whatsoever we do have to show extreme innovation, extreme creativity to make the planet a better place.
Both academic professors equally suggest the need to have a new building code that will encompass energy efficiency and water conservation. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
And stakeholders in the renewable energy sector are adopting new mechanisms to enhance campaign for alternative energy in Nigeria. This time, the Rauf Badomosi Foundation, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, has shifted attention to secondary schools to engage future leaders in practical knowledge of alternative and renewable energy. The second edition of the essay writing contest for FCT senior secondary schools exposed the students to values and gains of renewable energy as they slugged it out to go home with 2025 GRB solar investment prizes. The Ministry of Education, FCT, says government will continue to partner with relevant stakeholders to ensure that the younger generation harness the benefit of modern technology to have a better tomorrow.
Access to solar light, and I also sincerely appreciate the FCT administration for investing so much on the solar lighting project. All of us should be a witness that Abuja is brighter, and it has reduced significantly the rate of crime in most of our communities.
To ensure that we create much more awareness about how we can go into clean energy adoption in the country, and we ensure that we include younger minds and brighter kids so that they will be part of this global conversation. And at the end of the day, there's no possibility of us having a greener future if we do not, put the next leaders, our future leaders, into the conversation that is very important.
Seeing these young fellows with their brilliant ideas, in fact, I'm so overwhelmed that such smart young people could come up with something very, very massive in the renewable energy sector. And I say very well that the future is bright for the younger generation.
At the end of the competition, winners were presented prizes, while participating schools were rewarded for their commitment to hard work. And Nigerian youth have been asked to ditch street protests for dialogue as the government readies a seat for them at the negotiating table. Stakeholders on youth matters stated this at the National Youth Discourse Abuja 2025, organized by the Eloni Young Cares Leadership Foundation in Abuja. Olainka Ojo reports.
The youth population of any country is a powerful driver of peace, innovation, and sustainable growth. And Nigeria is no exception.
Protest comes from when we feel our voices are not heard. So if our voices are heard truly, there will not be a place of protest.
This National Youth Dialogue, From Protest to Dialogue, Redefining Youth Engagement for National Transformation, is a testament to this fact.
It is a movement of minds and hearts, a platform to brainstorm, to connect, and to chart a realistic roadmap for national transformation.
The forum believes that protest is a feature of democracy and dialogue is essential for sustainable national progress.
Our progress as a country will not come from the street of protest, but one, from the table to dialogue. Protest is part of democracy, but dialogue sustains progress.
For me, with respect to security, dialogue is essential so that the citizenry can air their views, and of course government, or if like government establishment or other stakeholders, can have an insight into what their views are.
The panelists discussed issues surrounding youth and political participation, building trust and inclusion through digital identity, and Nigeria's new tax system.
It's very, very important, therefore, we create opportunities, we include them in the process, And one of the ways, of course, is sensitization, enlightenment, mentorship, and of course, ensuring that their complaints are addressed.
A real entrepreneur should add value to whatever it is they're selling. Maybe you're adding value by improving the product, you're adding value by what they call beneficiation, adding some value, putting something on top. Sometimes it may even have to do with creating new markets, but add value.
In order to avoid protest, we must understand this part called dialogue.
The gathering is a proof that Nigerian youths are very passionate and are now ready to channel their energies to productive ventures more than ever before. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
Right, now, to further strengthen the bond and political drive of APC members from Kwara State, the National Institute for Cultural Orientation organized a meeting with Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak and appointees from Kwara State in Abuja. The gathering is a show of appreciation to President Bola Tinubu for the appointment, with attendees pledging to work together to promote the interest of Kwara State and support the President's agenda.
The most important thing was that the governor was able to give us a scorecard of what has been going on. The purpose of this meeting is to, first of all, know ourselves very well and appreciate that we must be bonding regularly. That we have achieved.
To thank the Commander-in-Chief, the President, for most of the people you saw here today are either elected or appointed APC members. And for those of us who also won the election, we needed to come together, judge all together, know ourselves, and also find a point of stronger bond and unity so that we can further enhance the renewed hope agenda, both from the national down to the state.
Glory Agbo reports that the meeting ended with a renewed commitment by APC members to collaborate with each other to achieve positive goals and promote the well-being of Kwara State and Nigeria. Up next is Saturday's weather prospects for Nigerian cities and other parts of the world. And this is where we end the news. Thank you for being a part of it. I am Frama Pani, and my sign language interpreter has been Shegun Ajayi. Thanks for watching.